So how about them patch notes? Well, I wasn't home when they dropped and I was kind of behind the curve. Because of that, I have some IRL stuff going on in my life that I'm not going to be able to be on my computer till about Saturday. So with that out of the way, I wanted to get into a build that I was able to try and that you guys can give a shot to as well as you guys play the new season, because I was lucky enough to get the brand new ring, or not the ring, but the brand new aspect. I'm really tight on time for this video, so forgive me if this is a little unedited, normal to my normal style, but I just want to go over this video real quick because I won't be around on my PC for the next 2 days. So luckily I was able to get the Subterranean ring, which is a pretty cool ring we'll go over in just a minute. And if you guys want to skip to the actual just build section of this, feel free to do so. But I'm going to go over a couple of the nerfs to Druid that the patch notes have affected on builds in general quickly first, because a few of them affect this build as well. And this build is not optimized whatsoever. It was just something I was able to throw on and play around with just to test the new Subterranean aspect. So for this build, a few things were nerfed, and one of these things was shadow nerfed as well, and that's very important to speak about, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But one of the things that was nerfed is the symbiotic aspect. And what this used to do is when Nature's Fury key passive triggers a free skill, your non-ultimate cooldowns used to be able to be reduced by 12 seconds. That is no longer the case. Even on an amulet, it only goes up to 8, which does kind of mess around with a build we did attempt to go here. The build that we are going to be talking about is a modified Trample Slide build, and using the new Subterranean mod instead of something that you would normally throw on here. We are also using a one-handed weapon, which allows us for as much cooldown as we can get, because that has gotten nerfed as well. The other big nerf to talk about on Druid that I believe wasn't mentioned in the patch notes is the gigantic nerf to Envenom. What Envenom used to do is you used to do up to 60% more critical strike damage, and instead of where that plus symbol is, it used to be an X, meaning it was multiplicative, and now it is additive. So at max ranks, you're doing 60% more damage in an additive way if they are poisoned. This is a huge nerf, gigantic, as you guys know. Crit damage and vulnerable damage, even though they just got nerfed into the ground, are still the best aspects or the best damage buckets that you can spec into. But just wanted to let you guys know that got nerfed as well, and that does affect our build because we are running a Trample Slide build. So keep that in mind. Those two things are a huge nerf to any kind of Nature's Fury build, but any kind of wolf build as well. Granted, you can still play wolf Druid, and in fact, I'm pretty sure Wolf NATO Druid is probably still the best Druid build endgame. In fact, it might be slightly better because there was a bug going on with tornadoes that now is fixed where it wasn't doing damage in a certain way. But those are some of the nerfs about the patch notes that affect this build that I just wanted to go over. Let's jump into the actual build and what we're running. Again, this is going to be short and sweet and just kind of a overview first look of the new Subterranean mod and if you should be running it. So without going into a bunch of reasoning on whether Envenom is worth running anymore, I just wanted to show you exactly what the Poison Creeper mod can do, because it is interesting and there is kind of something that it works together with quite nicely. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of mobs and we're just going to press Poison Creeper. And you can see that it spawns a bunch of landslides as well. In this case, in this scenario, it also spawns 2. The reason it spawns 2 is because it also works with the aftershock node that you would normally run on a Trample Slide build. So we have 2 instances of damage, 2 separate times, that is getting multiplied twice. So like for this group right here, we can petrify and then use our skill, and that takes out a decent chunk of them. Then if they're tied up or after you use Poison Creeper and they're taking damage originally, you can also use your Trample, which also provides you with more. As you can see, the AoE for this damage is quite nuts, and it allows for pretty fast farming throughout dungeons. The only thing that I do not love about this ability or this build is having to use Landslide as your core skill if you are off cooldowns and you can't get any resets for your cooldowns. There are two different ways to get resets, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but I just wanted to show you what the skill actually does without any kind of like crazy high level dungeons or anything. So for our gear, it's not best in slot. Like I said, I kind of threw this build together willy-nilly because I just wanted to try out the ring. So take this with a grain of salt and make it like a version 1. And I'm definitely going to try this again while I'm leveling my new Druid on season 1. Cannot believe those patch notes, but here we go. We are using a regular helmet with +4 into Poison Creeper and allowing us to get Ballistic on it, which gives all of our skills basically +2 ranks, which is really, really nice. We could use Vasil's Prayer here, but try to make this without as many uniques as we can, and that's the same for Insatiable Fury. This is really good for extra damage on our skills because it's +3 to all werebear skills, but it's not necessary. And in fact, the extra survivability that you can get on a normal chest piece would probably be better once you start pushing Nightmare Tiers 50 and above. On our gauntlets, we have Landslides, we have Aftershock. I did not have any gloves with Landslide on them, plus the Landslide, so we just went with crit chance and happened to get a really high roll. Our crit chance is actually insane. We're at 46.2%, and we can get it higher, which is nuts, but this is currently what we're using. The Aftershock here is for the Poison Creeper mod and for our Trample mod, allowing us to double stack each one. Then we are using Disobedience. I don't know if this is best in slot anymore. This is just currently what I had. +4 ranks to Trample to just allow us to get some more damage because Trample does actually hit quite hard. Then we have Boots of Quicksand with some movement speed on it and some spirit cost reduction. This allows all of our earth skills to do crowd control, so we can gain benefits from crowd control damage, which again has been nerfed. Our amulet has Envenom and Symbiotic on it. This has been nerfed again, like I said, and makes the build a little more clunky to use, but again, this is not best in slot gear. You might be able to make it feel better with more cooldown reduction on something else. This should allow us to get a 1.75 cooldown on our Trample, which it does, but it's can be a pain in the ass to proc. The build feels really bad when both of these are on cooldown, all 3 of these are on cooldown, and you're not getting any resets. That's when the build kind of feels meh, but I feel like that's not this build's problem. It's just a Trample Slide problem with the new nerfs to Symbiotic and to cooldown reduction in total. Then we have Retaliation, which is our core skill damage, do more damage while we're fortified, or a percentage of our fortify. And then this is where we got the new node, or the new aspect, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then on our weapons, we have Trampled Earth, which does the landslide while you trample. And then we have Crash Stone here for more critical strike damage to crowd control enemies. Now, we have a very similar build to a Trample Slide build, but we are replacing something with Subterranean on one of our rings. What are we replacing? Well, 90% of the time, this is taking place of the mod that does 40% more crit damage to earth skills, and then like 12% more crit chance to your storm skills. Forgive me, I don't have the name, and I can't find one on my character anywhere, but that's the one we are replacing. Now the question is it worth it? I'm gonna say yes, mainly because one of the things that this build usually suffers with is single target damage, and allowing our Poison Creeper to be max rank and plus having a new burst ability that allows us to do extra damage more consistently and have its own separate cooldown from Trample and a way to reset it as well is probably beneficial. Now, what I found on this build in particular, since we're not always in bear form or wolf form, and is that the survivability seems to be a bit of an issue, but that is something that can definitely be worked on with better gear and better Paragon points. Again, I made this in less than an hour. I spent the last of my gold, and I just wanted to show you guys exactly what this mod can do and kind of a build you can go for. So let's talk about our spirit boons. Nothing serious here. We're taking less damage from elites. We're taking critical strike damage because our crit chance is through the roof. If your crit chance is not this high, probably go Scythe Talons. Now this is the main important one here. Pack Leader. Critical strikes have a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. since Trample Slide hits so many times so fast, you have a very high chance of resetting your Poison Creeper, which is huge. And then you have a better chance to reset your Trample Slide with the symbiotic use of this. So it is very useful. We're switching through this for Storm Strike for symbiotic, and we're using this and this as our Earth skills for symbiotic, and this as well for doing damage. So we have many chances to reset our skills, so keep that in mind as you're playing. And then this received a huge nerf here, which kind of sucks. This used to heal us a crap ton. Now we get lucky if we heal, which this is actually a huge nerf, and I think this contributes to this build feeling less tanky as it did before. And then this is not something we need, but it's definitely usable. If you don't want to use this, you can go Scythe Talons and Avian Wrath, but this just helps us reset our Petrify as much as possible. So let's just talk about our abilities real quick. Again, this is just a normal Trample Slide build. So we have 2 points into Storm Strike to help reset our cooldowns. I only have 2 points into Wild Impulse because I was having a bit of mana sustain issues because my gear isn't the best. Then we have Predatory Instincts for damage to close. We have Earthen Bulwark into Innate Earthen Bulwark. We have Landslide into Terramotes, and Terramotes allow us to gain guaranteed critical strike chance, and that works for the Trample Slide and for the Poison Creeper mod. So this is definitely something that you want to use in this build. Then we have Poison Creeper with +5 ranks into Brutal Poison Creeper. We are using Clarity for a little bit of Spirit Sustain. Again, not needed probably if you have better gear. Down here, we're going into 3 into Crushing Earth, 3 into Stone Guard, 3 into Trample, all the way up to Savage Trample for more Spirit Sustain. We have 1 point into Neurotoxin, 3 points into Envenom. Not sure if this is necessary anymore. We're using the Petrified Ultimate. We're putting as many points as we can into this tree over here because all of this is really helpful for our build. This heals us. This gives us damage to vulnerable. This gives us triple critical strike damage to an earth skill. Is very good. These are very good nodes here. And then lastly, we are using Nature's Fury to do the resetting on our skill tree. Now for the Paragon board, I just want to touch on this really quickly. It is a very simplistic, normal earth kind of bear druid thing. The only thing that I did differently here is I went over here and I grabbed 2 separate nodes that normally aren't grabbed. I went Heightened Malice. I'm not sure if this is necessary or if this is used in most Trample Slide builds, but since our Poison Creeper is such a vital part to our build, I felt like it's pretty perfect and fits really well. Another thing that I did grab that is different is I wanted to try Constricting Tendrils. It seems to be pretty good, but probably not best in slot. You can probably do something else here that will be better. Again, I was just experimenting. So what we did end up doing is we put Exploit here in our first tree. Then we went to Earth and Sky. We grabbed Earth and Power, came up here and grabbed for Oppress for some more damage to crowd control, even though that has been nerfed. Earth and Devastation, which is really, really good for us. Then we came up here and we went into Undaunted on this glyph. We grabbed all of these nodes here. We grabbed Constricting Tendrils. Again, this probably isn't necessary. And we grabbed more crowd control and life here, crowd control damage and life here. Then we came over here and we grabbed the Werebear all the way to Survival Instincts. Again, I'm not 100% sure if this is necessary in a Landslide build. I haven't played one since the beginning of the game, so forgive me. And again, I made this build kind of quickly just to show off the new mod that we did get. We came down here and we grabbed Ursine, and then we came down here and we grabbed Sinking Fangs into the glyph of Spirit. Spirit did get buffed because now it works for all skills and not just core skills, so that is nice. And then we came down here and grabbed Heightened Malice. But that's the build. I just wanted to show off real quick the new ring. I think it's definitely a viable build. This in particular iteration needs some tweaking. I just wanted to put this out real quick for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I won't be around till Saturday. Enjoy the new season, even though the world seems to have hated the patch. I've got my own feelings on it. If I was around, I would talk more about it, but those videos don't really do very well on my channel anyway. Thank you very much. I will see you guys on the next one. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about the patch notes or this build or the mod itself. I will see you on the next one. Tic Tac out.